So this is a depiction of Yggdrasil. This is the Norse tree of life. What's curious about this depiction is that there are roots at the bottom that we can assume are peering into other dimensions and being that sort of duct tape. But where's the tree? Well, it was somehow cut down because this is a mountain. Mercator called it the Rupes Nigra, was a 33-mile-wide black magnetic stone. So what's also curious about this drawing is that there's an ice wall around it. Now, first when I looked at this, I thought, oh, well, this is the Antarctic ice wall. But now it makes more sense that it's actually 17 miles wide of an icy mountain range, which goes all around Eden. So what are your thoughts, Santos?
Yeah, I saw the vid and I thought it was really good. It's certainly good evidence, the ancient maps that that show those 4 islands, and how it was then consequently removed at a certain period. I think that was about 300 years ago. Is that right?
Right. In the late 1600s, what they tell us is the late 1600s, basically removed. And we've shown that of the time they did a sort of horrible Photoshop where they took parts of Canada, Russia, and Greenland and just removed them. And what we were talking about in our last call, Santos, is you were providing lots of information how that time period, the late 1600s, is really when the globe deception started to ramp up.
Yeah, because what they've done is they've put the science of materialism before the science of transcendence, or supernatural, or metaphysical, or what you would say spiritual science. Okay, so they put material effect science, pseudoscience, scientism, before the law of God. The law of God is truth and science, not falsity and pseudoscience. So we've turned our back on God by accepting theories of men. Look at all of them. The first theory that destroyed mankind, and where we can point to after the Renaissance where mankind went downhill, was the Copernican theory. Then 120 years later, the Newtonian theory. Then 100 years later, the Darwinian theory. Then 100 years later, the relativity Einsteinian theory. Then the Jesuits, Lemaitre, with the Big Bang theory, and that was from the Jesuits. Yes, you heard right. So there's 5 theories, and they've never been upgraded. Do you know anywhere where they've been upgraded to fact?
We're not upgrading the theories, but we're actually trying to prove the opposite, which is the whole point of going to the North.
Yeah, we're revisiting them, if anything. Yeah. And so, yeah, and we're exposing them as false. They're all false. It's pseudoscience, and it's the science of demonology, okay? Demons are service to self entities that care not about God's truth and nature and how it works. Okay, so the electrical world of effects is infested with false paradigms and illusions and falsities, because materialists, although they are intelligent, they're not connected to source, and they can't use their higher mind. So their intelligence is very animalistic. And so their theories are based on their deceived senses. This is how horrible the world, the hellish world that they inhabit is. It's a hide mind, and it's controlled by demons. And the demons were created. Egregores are created by people who use magic formulas to conjure up spirits and energy, and then to make vows and blood vows and pacts and covenants with satanic forces. And so what they do then is those egregores actually grow and become gods unto their system. And so the Farnese family, by creating the Jesuits with the Borgias and the Orsini and the Medicis and Gaetani, all those families there, I can mention a lot more, but those are definitely the most powerful families who ever lived for probably about 4,000 or 5,000 years. Okay, they created demons, demons of hell, and when they.
Santos, my question would be, now that we're at the stage where we're awakening to this and we're figuring all this out, and where we're catching on to what's happened to us and what's been happening, what do you think is the solution, and where do you think it's heading? What is the climax of all of this? I mean, if we reveal all this truth, what is the climax? Because part of what we're trying to do is we've come to a point where we feel, well, we've been protesting the flat earth and all these truths for so long now, but what is the end goal? And for us, going to the North Pole and finally proving that the Garden of Eden is there is hard evidence to show that, to put everything to bed, to expose these people. Do you think that is a good thing for us to be embarking on this journey to physically prove this?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, absolutely.
I would like your thoughts, Santos, on Mount Meru and magnetism, because obviously all magnetism on this realm, it all comes from the center.
Can I share some slides with you? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll share my screen because I'll be able to explain a lot more what I'm trying to say. See, the sun, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so you see the spinal cord in the center of the body. It's called Meru Danda. Danda is D-A-N is Dan, Adam. This is another way of saying man, but Meru Danda is the spinal column. Okay, in the middle of it is the nerve, the spinal cord, which is 18 inches long in a man, 17 in a woman. So 18 is, well, that's the magic number, isn't it? The letter R, Ra. Okay, Meru Danda. So, and 18, okay, 18 inches is half of a yard, so 36 inches, and 360 is, well, if you're looking for the measuring stick that's in the temple of the soul of man, Solomon, it's that spinal cord, okay? And so Meru Danda, Mount Meru, that's where the magnetism is generated through that spinal cord, and so see this intertwining energy here. These are all realms that exist inside of this Adam or Atum, this man who has an anatomy. So he's made of atomies, okay? And so he is Adamic because he is atomic. And in the heart, the green chakra with 12 petals, this is where you guys are talking about. This is the core of, this is Meru, Mount Meru here on Earth. Now, Earth is an anagram for heart, okay? So when you look at the heart word, see, if you look at the spinal cord, how it spinal column, how it works, and it's called Meru Danda, you will understand that that spiraling energy going down from the red chakras at the bottom all the way up to the violets at the top. That's how the heavens are in our solar system. So in every ancient theology, once when all theologies were syncretic and syncretism was universal, this was the same as in Christian theology. The Gnostic Christians of Alexandria in the 2nd century, there was one called Origen, and he said man is also a solar system with a moon and a sun and 5 planets and 12 zodiac signs. Okay, so it's not alien to Christianity. Now, Christianity goes back way, way past the supposed historical Jesus. Okay, way past. It is ancient. I've exposed Christianity in ancient Egypt. Christianity is a theological science, and it's this science here about this, how the universe is. Man is the measure of the universe. This is how the universe is. And inside the body, you can see all these planes. They haven't exactly materialized as our solar system has, because it's more advanced. But there are planes in the body of man. Okay? And depending on which chakras are activated, man will be either more animalistic or more spiritual, depending on which chakras he's working through. And you see, because you can be living in the hellish planes down here. Here is survival, the ego, the lower ego. Here is the mental mind, the material mind, the animalistic mind. And here people create in the material world, and they have wars are produced down here. Whereas up here in the heart chakra, in the earth chakra, this is where the Garden of Eden is. Eden is Adam. Okay, the Garden of Adam is in his heart, the earth heart. So you are going to Mount Meru, the spinal column, the axis mundi of the cosmocrator in which you live. You are living inside of yourself, a stepped up God of you. So you are a stepped down God of the God you live inside of.
Excellent. I would like to clear up that we are actually not those who are being drawn to the center and will take the journey either next year or in coming years. We're not actually going to be near Mount Meru, at least initially. And how I see it is there's a type of recentering that happens upon every level you pass in your ascensional process. So right now, on this earth, we are attracted to the center crater. Once we are on one of the 4 continents, in the center is Mount Meru. And in all of the ancient texts, Mount Meru is home of the immortal Siddhas and all of the gods. So this is, in my opinion, where we would go to next in this realm. We would then take yet another exodus to Mount Meru, and once you basically transcend all of the levels of Mount Meru and reach Brahma's golden peak or golden castle, whatever you want to call it, that's when your incarnations start taking on a purely etheric form. Whereas when you're in Eden, you're still semi-physical, semi-ethereal.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Yes, because if you're if you're going to a more pure place, the body will have to definitely be way more pure, and it will be more ethereal. Okay, so it will be of a higher constitution. It will be more of a you know, a higher vibrating sonoluminescence. We are sonoluminescence. We are the same as God, you know. The sun in the sky is the sun in our hearts. Okay, that's the sun. That's why heart is an anagram, is the same as Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare is the Haret, and it's Horus, the sun. Leo, the you know, the line of the tribe of Judah, is the heart, and that's where the sun is. And Igina discovered that the sun has a heartbeat at the same, and it beats the same at the same beat rate as our hearts. And so it is the heart. It is Hare Krishna. It is, and it's the heart plane. It's together with basically what Igina says is the sun is the other half of the earth. They are twins in a sense. The earth is the electrical, you know, result of the sun's magnetic rays, and they are thought waves. Actually, those light waves, they are thoughts. It's the thoughts of God that are being projected onto the earth screen.
That's what the Akashic record, isn't it?
Yeah, well, that is the Akashic record. That is the eye of the heavens. That's our higher consciousness. That's us in a stepped up God. Okay, Krishna is the source. It's the milk of the cheese, of the yogurt, of the butter. So, and the black sun is also behind the yellow sun that we see in the sky. That's why when you see those little dots, those little black solar spots, that's actually the black sun, or another black sun, because there are several different archetypes that can be called black suns. Okay, the Earth actually has one itself. It's called the dark satellite. So you're actually seeing that, and what that black sun is the dielectric sun. Make no mistake about it, guys. Make no mistake about it. Whatever is black is dielectricity. Okay, whatever is white or golden, Ra, is magnetism. And the black light is resting light. It's the true Christ light, the true Krishna light. That is the true nature of Christ, that black resting light. And its partner, eternal and conjugal, is magnetism, white light. And white light is the parent of electrical light, which is all the 7 colors that are born from white light. And the first 2 are the twins, red and blue, and red shift, blue shift. And then from red shift, blue shift, you get the rainbow, which is red shift, blue shift, when you look at it properly. And you can see there, that's the twin child. The rainbow is the twin child in 7. It's a septenary, or an octave, but it's a twin because it's red shift, blue shift, which is born of white light, which is the 1/2 of the 2 lights, black and white light.
Perhaps this is why in the stories of Shambhala, Mount Meru is called the White Shining Mountain.
Yeah, because it's magnetic. So Mount Meru is also the mechanism by which this 24-hour clock of our Earth is founded upon. It's Mount Meru, and it is a magnetic mountain which actually with the way the firmament works is that it has metallic elements in it that make it like a mirror. Okay, so the dome effect or the firmament effect, the vault of the sky is like a mirror. Okay, and so what is projecting the sun? The sun is basically has no physicality at all. You see, even the globies confirm that with their own science books, which agree that the sun is 90% hydrogen and 10% helium. So, have you ever seen any solid hydrogen or helium?
Absolutely not.
Right. Okay. So, it's water, essentially, hydrogen and oxygen and all of that watery stuff. So when Mount Meru interacts, it's like when you have a convex lens, you can actually, project light and burn, with those magnifying glasses, you can actually burn things far away. Well, this Mount Meru is like a coherent magnetic field, like a laser, which projects out toward the mirror of the dome, which then sort of it magnifies that beam coming from. It's like an amplifier, and amplifies that beam coming from Mount Meru, and then condenses that light, that electromagnetic sevenfold septenary of light, into a white ball of light. And so when you look at the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the Father, is the dome, the dominus, and the Son is actually the child of that dome, because it's an effect of the Sun is an effect of the dome. Without the dome, it cannot work. And then the Holy Spirit is the magnetic, field, which then produces the screen of the Earth, which is basically just, earth and water and gas. Okay, so it's funny how the globalists defend their spinning, rotating, wobbling, thrusting, orbiting ball, and it's actually supposedly it's orbiting around the sun at a Mach 88. That's 66,600 mile an hour. That's Mach 88, and it's just a sod of dirt. Can you imagine?
I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts, because you briefly mentioned that there is another sun here on Earth. Is this the sun that's talked about in Eden?
What do you mean, another sun? I'm just saying that the disk that we call sun, it is a threefold disk, more so than all the other planets. Even though the so-called planets like Jupiter, and they are just miniature suns, really, or types of suns, like the moon. The moon is the twin of the sun, and they have their own domes. They have their own spheres. This is why Pythagoras called them the music of the spheres. And then the materialist idiots think that Pythagoras was a glober, when he was not. all the Neoplatonists and all the ancient Greeks, Anaxagoras, Anaximenes, Anaximander, Solon, they were all flat earthers, all of them, and the Pythagoreans, vegetarians and flat earthers, all of them. And so, but they spoke about the music of the spheres, because what the universe is like an egg. It's in the shape of a 5:1 ratio egg. The magnetic ball that we live in is an egg, and it's concentric spheres. There are 10 of them, and the Earth is the horizontal plane intersecting all of them. Okay, so the sun has its own force field. It has its own torus. Okay, and it is an impressive one. It's called Master Vortexia. That's what the name of it is in esoteric science. The Master Vortexia, because it is actually sweeping all the other planets around with it. They are captured. All of their torus fields are embedded in the sun's. This is why Tycho Brahe should not be included with Copernicus and Kepler, because Tycho Brahe, he was of the correct system. He understood that the sun had its own heliocentric mechanism as well. Even though it's a geocentric system, the sun is also causing the planets to be captured in its torus field, its vortex, and so all the planets have their cycles and epicycles as they go around the sun. Hence, in astrology, you talk about, you know, planets going retrograde. They're not going backwards. It's just that they have epicycles. And so, and these are all being caught up in the sun's massive ethereal, you know, the sun is the master of the ether that is the field that is turning over our heads daily, producing the magnetic tides in the oceans, producing the winds, the weather on the earth, producing the moods. The sun is the master of it, okay? And the moon is the dielectric symphony or orchestra conductor of it all. The moon is dielectric, and the sun is magnetic. That's it. The sun is an anode, and the moon is cathode.
So how do we reconcile that with accounts of people who've gone, like Olaf Janssen and Admiral Byrd and various occult accounts of them talking about a sun in inner Earth, or hollow Earth, which is what we think is the crater continent of Eden at the North Pole. They all talk about a second sun, a smaller sun that is bronze in color, which is what we think is emitting the aurora borealis. So my question is, what are your thoughts on this sun that is well documented at the North Pole, the smaller sun that's revolving around Mount Meru?
Yeah, okay. Well, the sun that's in the under the dome that we see, that is the heart, okay? This other sun is the pineal gland. The sun exalts in Aries. Aries is the cerebrum. Aries rules the pineal gland, okay? The pituitary gland is in the region of Taurus, the lower part of the skull, and the cerebellum, and it is the pituitary body. And so the moon exalts in Taurus. Sun exalts in Aries. So there is a sun in Aries. It's the pineal gland. And that is what they call the soul. See, most of the esoteric philosophers of history will tell you that the soul is in the third ventricle or the pineal gland or associated with the cerebrum or the medulla oblongata or the corpus callosum. They're always, not the medulla oblongata, I'll take that one out of that list. And there are many more to add in there. I can give you a list of all the philosophers of history who have spoken about the soul residing in the cranium. But we know that the soul is in the heart, because the heart and the soul go together, whereas the mind and the spirit have a different category altogether, and they are in the head. Okay, mind and spirit, whereas heart and soul is so that there are two suns. Now, the mind's vortex, the cerebrum's vortex, is the second biggest in the human body. The heart's is the biggest by far, and then I think the liver center or the solar plexus is the third biggest vortex. But that's another sun. Okay, so you've got the pineal gland sun and you've got the heart sun. Hence, the heart is called the soul, and the soul is Sol Invictus, the sun. So there are many suns and there are many planets. The body is totally a temple. It's the Temple of Solomon, and it is the measure of the universe. How man is how the universe is. As above, so below. There is no difference. Once you depart from this basic truth, you are lost in the world of delusions.
And this
You'll
is
never
why
come.
many of us are attracted to the center. Because these
Well-
outer lands have nothing left for us. We've learned all we can. We've worked out the karma that we're able to out here. And I just kind of want to clear up that it's easy to mistake these four continents as metaphorical or a place within you. And indeed, we are microcosms of the macrocosm, but this is a physical place that when one is spiritually ready, one must take a physical journey to get to. We're not semi-etheric yet. We are still in these dense outer lands. So manifestation is not going to happen in the way that I've seen many people in this movement believe. It takes strong will of the heart, of the mind, and of the body.
Yeah, I'll just go back to what you said, earlier on about a similar subject. When you're saying that life is a school. So all of this, the meaning of life, is to learn, to grow, and to move on. And as such, as in any school, there is a process. So while we're out in these lands, in these outer lands, we're here to learn about ourselves, we're here to grow, and once we've grown, we've got to take the next step to the next school, which is the Garden of Eden, which is why a lot of us who have reached a certain spiritual maturity are being drawn to the center, because we've learned everything we have to learn out there, like you said, and we're ready for the next challenge, or the next school of growth. And again, once you're there, you'll probably be in Eden for a few thousand years, however that works, and we will learn what we need to learn while we're there. And at some point, there'll be another exodus, just like you said, Devin, into Mount Meru and into the etheric realms. So I think there is a process that we follow. I think that process is repetitive. So once you get to the end of the school, you start again right at the bottom. And I think we all become archons. I think we've all been archons. I think it's necessary. And we have to find ourselves and find our way back home as the whole point of life. What's your thought on that, Santos?
Beautiful.
Yep. It sounds reasonable to me, and it sounds correct for sure.
Now, I would love both of your thoughts on the ice wall. It's very peculiar that most of the flat earth movement is quite focused on the ice wall and why are the military guarding it. But if we are to take magnetism into account, then the further you get away from the center, you could say the lower vibration it is. So there's a quote by William Warren in the book Paradise Found, Cradle of the Human Race at the North Pole, and he says that the divinities live at the North Pole and the asuras, or the demons, live in the South Pole. Now, it's easy to point to the ice wall and say, well, there's so many people guarding it. The military's there, there's the Antarctic Treaty, 55 countries are involved in it. So what are they hiding? But the opposite is true. These archons of the military-industrial complex, reptilians, whatever you want to call them, they have no domain around Eden. Eden is protected by divinities, and to set up military ships or volatile airspace would be going against the divine plan. There would be major karmic repercussions if any such action was attempted. And this is why the Arctic is the least protected area in the world. There's actually the least amount of military bases in that deep Arctic region than in anywhere else in the world.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think you only guard something that you own. And the fact that the Antarctic is well guarded and well looked after by the UN and the powers that be means that they own whatever is beyond those walls, which is why they guard them. Whereas at the Arctic, there is, like we said, basically our research has shown us that there's nothing there. There's no one protecting it. There's no treaty. There's no Arctic treaty. Um, there's nothing, and that's because they have no business up there, and they don't stop anyone from going there. So essentially, I think we are our own prison guards. You know, I hear in the truth movement people say, "Oh, you're going to get shot down if you try and go there. They'll never let you go there." Um, that is how they have created the system. So we are our own prison guards. We stop ourselves from returning back to the garden. So they don't have to do anything. They have to just convince us that we're not worthy of going there, or there isn't anything there. Hence the whole, you know, we came from monkeys, or we were banished by God from the Garden of Eden, and only Jesus will come and save us. So they're trying to take power away from us. And I think as we're waking up and being called back home, these powers that be are going to try and draw as many people as they can out into the outer worlds, away from the center, because they're going to try and create a new paradigm out there as people are being shifted to the center. So I think there's going to be a split in reality, those who are going within and those who are seeking without.
Absolutely, 100%. And there's no evidence for any outer lands, but if we are to follow the same logic as you incarnate somewhere on Earth, and once you've recentered yourself, you're able to physically recenter yourself, then perhaps there are a multitude, perhaps infinite amount of outer lands. Those who incarnate in these lands might have once been on Earth or in Eden and have descended. So this is obviously just a theory, but perhaps we're consistently moving outwards and inwards. We go to Mount Meru, we visit all the upper dimensions, we fuse back with all that is, with Source, and then we decide to play the game again. So we descend through Mount Meru, traverse all the levels, go to the outer lands. And perhaps it's just a game of consciousness. It's fun to create. It's fun to experiment with as many modes as we can, right? Because if God is truly infinite and doesn't see things as good or bad, then all type of creation would be the work of God. Now, that's not to say all type of creation is harmonious.
Yep. I would have to agree with those thoughts. All is projected from the source creator, and in all of his expansions, he allows the different expansions of himself to create worlds according to their pleasure. And eventually, all those that should want to return to the source will find their way back. Some sooner, some later. Others probably will go beyond the point of no return, where they do not want to return to source. I don't know how that can be possible, but
It's the same logic as you're a teenager and your father tells you, I want you off of drugs, off of alcohol, be a good student, and you get a rush from disobeying those orders. So it's sort of like disobeying the will of God is a rush.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
And I think as well, we're at the cusp of going out, of becoming teenager and becoming a young adult. This is what we call shifting into a new age. This is where we are now. And there are some of us, teens, do not want to grow up. We want to stay as teenagers. And there are some of us who are saying, well, I'm ready to stop being a teenager now. I'm ready to be a young adult. And this is the friction that we're seeing in the world. So we're seeing people who are resisting the shift, who do not want to hear about any truth. They just want to carry on playing this game. It doesn't mean they're evil or they're bad. They just don't want to grow up yet. They're not mature yet. So there is this difference. And eventually, those who do decide to grow up will leave the nest, the home, and begin a new home elsewhere, where they're not restricted by the laws or restricted by those boundaries as a teenager, where you're a bit more free because you're mature enough to make your own decisions, I guess. And we're going to use the same analogy, which is what the Garden of Eden is, I guess.
And this sort of leads to the topic of how it seems like spirituality is often left out of flat Earth, and flat Earth is simply seen as just another conspiracy one has to debunk. And you know, my appearance on Globebusters a few weeks ago was kind of telling, because the gist I was getting was, well, the Earth is flat, we can measure that, we can understand that, and that's all there is. But that's all there isn't. Flat Earth should be, like everything else, it should be a stepping stone into really taking back your own power. Anybody can be incredibly well-read on mythologies and sacred geometry and etc., etc. But if you're not actually incorporating that into true gnosis, into the wisdom of the soul, then what are we really doing? We're sort of chasing our tail in a similar way that these archons are, by flexing their muscles. You know, I'm well versed in science and evolution and history.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that is the confusion of this awakening, of this shift out of becoming a teenager, where, again, going back to your analogy, which is perfect. You know, when I remember when I was a teenager, I got to an age where I was about 18 years old, and I had to decide what I was going to do with my life. It was a very confusing time for me. You know, what career do I want to go into? What do I want? Do I want to travel? Do I want to go to university? Do I want to start a career? So it's really confusing, and that's what's happening to us. And some figure it out quicker. You know, some get to 18 and they're like, I know exactly where I'm meant to go and exactly what I'm meant to do. They just mature quicker than others. Some don't figure it out until they're 30. They get to 30 years old and they're like, now I know where I'm meant to go. So I think it's akin to the same thing. These people that are waking up to the flat Earth, they are transitioning out of that teenage state, but they are still, they've not yet reached that spiritual maturity to know what to do with it. I've got this information, I've come across this, but I don't know what to do with it. So I think that's the big transition of knowing what to do with it. Now that I have this and I know this, now what? What's the next step now?
Bringing it back around, what's this Gladio told us?
See, the center of a torus field is called a hyperboloid, rather. And actually, it's actually the same word as hyperbole, right? So, but the meaning of that word, let's see. See, this is the inverse of a sphere. So the only form that exists is this form, the torus field. That's it. And so
hyperbole is also quite similar to the word hyperborea.
Exactly, because bor, B-O-R, is exactly the same as bol, B-O-L, because R and L are the eternal interchangeables. Right and left, red and blue. So Hyperborea is the hyperboloid, which is the hyperbolea, this word here, where you are going, which is in the center. And it's in this part here. This is where blue shift happens, and at the bottom is where red shift happens. So if the Earth is a disk like a ring magnet, the center is where blue shift is happening, and that is compression. But there's a compression happening here. See, as the waves converge and mediate, they have to feel pressure mediate. So they will be coming in here, the dielectric black light will be coming in here, and it will be causing a compression. Whereas at the other end, there will be a rarefaction, and rarefaction is redshift, compression is blue shift. So what you're doing is you're going to Hyperborea, or the hyperboloid center, where blue shift is happening, and blue shift is Krishna. Blue shift is the blue light of the Lord. I've seen this light. It's a beautiful baby blue. Now it's like a it's soft like that Skype blue there, the Skype button, that blue there, but it's a baby blue, but it's a beautiful blue. And it's Krishna's blue. That's the same color. If you pull up an image of Krishna, you'll find that he's always got that blue. Actually, let's have a look at this.
And same with many other mythological figures.
There it is. I've seen that blue. See, blue shift and red shift. Radharani is red shift, radiate, and in the Earth disk model, that would be Antarctica, where rarefaction is happening. And where you say the asuras are, see the asuras, that's Ra. Wherever you see Ra, asura, that's radiation. That's the god Ra, and Ra means evil in Hebrew. It means sun god in Egyptian. But in Hebrew, Ra means evil.
So we're going in the right direction then.
Yes, blue shift. You've got to go where blue shift is happening, compression. That's the Garden of Eden.
It's interesting. Antarctic, ant is a prefix meaning opposed to.
That's
so
right.
If there are lands or cities near or around Antarctica, that would be energetically opposite of the Arctic.
Yeah. Yep.
And that was a correlation that you made, Santos, when you put with the bowl, hyperbole. It's funny how the center or the crater continent is a crater, and the correlation between a crater and a bowl.
Yes. That's the crater. That's what in that model that you made, and you put the cotton balls at the North Pole, and then you pulled it up.
Yeah.
Right. Well, under there, where the 4 islands of Jambudweep are, well, that's see the center of this donut here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So they've got red here at the top and blue at the bottom. Well, blue should be always on top. So what you're looking at, see that gyroscope?
Yes.
That's what an atom looks like. That's what a solar system looks like. That's what your body looks like. That disc there, that accretion disc, that's coming out of your heart horizontally. And this axis, that's your spinal column. You have a gyroscope keeping you keeping you standing up vertical all the time. Everything's a little gyroscope dynamo. See that? See what that's called? It's called a thorax. See Thor, the god Thor?
Uh-huh.
So Meru, that's in the middle, and then you've got this thorax. And how many bones in the thorax? 24 bones. Interesting. 33 levels. See, this is the Jacob's ladder. This is Meru. See, and what you're doing is when you go into the heart, you're going into the plane, which is, well, it's really the creative plane of Earth. It's where the heart's desires are. It's where your soul is. Your soul is in the Earth. You see? Soul is the spiritual counterpart of heart. Spirit is the spiritual counterpart of mind. So one is the master, one is the servant. When the servant serves the master well, then they are united. So if we go back up here, the center here, this tree, well, tree is just another way of saying Taurus. It's a Taurus. And that's what your torso is. You see, you come from a uterus, and the uterus looks like a Taurus. And then you have it becomes a torso, and you have a aura, which is a Torah. And so Taurus backwards is what? Rotate. It's the rotating Taurus fields. Taurus rotating. And then and look at the word bol in Dutch. Bol means what?
Trunk of tree.
Yeah, look at this, man. I mean, this is so freaking amazing.
What's interesting is the Holy Grail at the center of the round flat table. That's a magic bowl.
Yeah, that's the golden bull, because it's the hyperbole. It's golden, hyperboloid.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Gold. It's a golden egg. It's an inverted golden egg.
Santos, would you say that this crater continent at the center could possibly be as big as the land mass on this outer part of Earth, as within, so without? So if you folded out that bowl in the center, would it be fair to say that it's possibly just as big within Eden as it is outside?
The which bowl?
The crater continent, Eden.
Oh, okay. I don't know. That looks pretty massive, doesn't it? It looks like it's... Oh, those islands are like massive, like continents.
Yeah, because we're thinking that as within, so without. You know, we reckon if we folded out that crater and flattened it out, it would be the same size as all the continents on this part of Earth. But it looks a lot smaller because obviously it's a bowl, and we're looking at it from a different perspective, I guess. But once you're in there, it must be quite a big area. I mean, Admiral Byrd flew 1,700 miles before he was stopped, and he couldn't see the end of it. So that would tell you that it must be quite a big area in there.
That's interesting, because his friend, a Tasmanian explorer, Sir Captain George Hubert Wilkins, he logged 5,000 miles beyond the South Pole.
Wow.
Yeah, he also did exploration, as did Admiral Byrd. They were friends. And so Captain George Hubert Wilkins, he spoke of other lands that were not known to man, that he found beyond Antarctica. So, as you say, you know, there's possibly 8 gates that lead to the North Garden of Eden, and one of those islands is populated by humans, isn't it?
Yes, Jambudvipa.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be humans that have been accepted to live there. You know, otherwise the other inhabitants wouldn't let them. You know, if the races that we interact with are advanced and they've done all their karmic, you know, murderous and abominable actions, they never ever go back to doing harm, and so they live by the highest law. So, you know, whether they are big and massive, if their heart is with God totally and completely, then you never fear. You never fear these creatures wherever you go in the universe who have completed their service to God and are complete and perfect in their ways. And that's essentially what we're doing. We are doing that. We're on the right-hand path, and we believe that purity and you know, sanctimonious living as much as possible, and the good way, the good road, is the way for us. We feel that, we know that. It's our intuition leads us. Whereas others are very comfortable with the left-hand path, and they believe that anything goes will save them. And so they will be saved, yes, but their salvation will be different to the one that we get if we purify our hearts. The pure ones will be blessed beyond the blessings that anyone else will receive.
Do you think that, Santos, that you know, if we are in a school, do you think that the school works both ways? Do you think there are souls that are descending and souls that are ascending? I know there's a quote in the spiritual world that says that spiritual people have been to hell, religious people are afraid of going to hell. So do you think there are souls that are coming from these heavenly realms on their way down to the hellish realms as part of the evolutionary cycle, I guess, spiritually? And there are souls who are coming from the lower chakra realms going up into the higher, and it's sort of like souls are always going up and down and interlinking through the universe.
Yep, spot on. Yes, that's how it's going. It's like the elements from hydrogen to uranium and plutonium, all the way down in density of frequency. And so you've got fusion and fission. You've got the Elohim and Nephilim. The Elohim are going upward, yeah, and the Nephilim are falling downward. So there are ones who delight in misdeeds, depravity, debauchery. They delight in these practices. They don't heed the sacred scriptures.
I feel like there's a whole another Skype chat on this, because I love this topic, especially about the Bible. Very much like you, I grew up with the Bible and I turned away from it, and it looks like over the last couple of years I've started coming back to it, and because of you, really, Santos, and started seeing it with a different light and appreciating it and understanding it better than I ever thought I would. So I think that is worth another call some other time, because I'll really savor that. So would you say, this on a bigger scale, Santos, sorry to cut you off, would you say on a bigger scale, these beings that worship these lesser gods are what we call the souls who are descending on the way down? So they've come from the heavenly realms and they're now on the way down to the hellish realms. Is this, yeah, sum it up that?
Yep, and they are being saved for their works. Only their salvation is damnation to us, because we've been there. That's damnation. They are being lost into perdition. That's why the false prophets, the people who teach Anything other than, well, people who teach the left-hand path, which is what the prodigal son is, which is essentially just flesh eaters and seed wasters. Because the prodigal son was famous for wasting his seed with the prostitutes, in other words, ejaculating, wasting the life force and disrespecting God by, you know, discharging that force disrespectfully into other human beings, animals, or whatever, and eating dead animals. Both of these induce death. Ejaculation induces death slowly, and the eating of dead animals makes you dead because you are what you eat. So this is the cult of death. The ejaculators, the seed wasters, and the swine eaters. That's why I go after them, you know, like a terrorist, because I want to make those two things famous. I want to make those known throughout the earth, because all demonism and all depravity is because of murdering animals and eating their dead corpses and ejaculating. Hence, you've got a culture of condoms and contraceptives and unwanted pregnancies and all kinds of sickness, because society has produced incontinent little boys who can't hang on to their little, you know, seedy bits whilst having sex. You know, they have to, they're incontinent, they have to ejaculate their brains. This is basically, they're emptying out their life force, their brain, they're becoming stupid through ejaculation and eating, you know, ham and cheese sandwiches. You know, they're basically addicted to blood. These are vampires. They have a blood addiction. And they justify eating meat because, and they point to the Bible. Oh, but God said, which God? Not Source Creator. Source Creator says, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not murder. And there's no compromising of that principle. But the other God, El Shaddai, that comes along, which is Shaitan, yes, well, he says, yes, you can, I'll give you these animals. Well, that's because these are another class of, these are untouchables. These are church-going murderous people. They will kill you if your Jesus doesn't drink coffee, because ours drinks wine, you know, and coffee. And why doesn't yours? You know, and this is the 30,000 different sects of corporate registered Christian churches. Well, talk about a kingdom divided, and they will kill you. And these are swine eaters. These are the swine eaters, and they worship a God who you know, in his scriptures condones this kind of murderous activity.
Before you answer, I have to rush off, guys. I can't. I've got a work to do, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'll have to go too soon because it's getting late here. You hold the thought, and we'll pick up from here another time.
Absolutely.